It should be good. So give me 1 second. Okay, so we're recording. So Leanne, if you wouldn't mind while I go live on Facebook, if you would just introduce Kevin, unless or maybe do the territorial acknowledgement and then I can introduce Kevin after. So whichever one you prefer, I'm down with. I just want to make sure it gets on Facebook. And you might be muted.
Yeah, Leanne's muted.
No worries. So I can do
Here
the
I am. I am. Hello. Good morning,
Perfect.
everyone. For those of you joining live, that's great. And welcome to, I think this is the 7th online Kevin Bell presentation of bird IDing. We did start sort of formally every Saturday in January, but I know that Nicole's been hosting, helping to do the tech for this with Kevin since October. So, and probably there were some presentations before then, but this time is ducks and gulls, the first part of the gulls. And for those of you who are not familiar with the legendary Kevin Bell, he's a local ecologist, naturalist, and was the former manager at the Lynn Canyon, Ecology Society, and among other things, and has been very instrumental in ensuring that Maplewood Flats, the conservation area, be escape becoming a mall. In the 90s, it became a society and a charity with many other community members, but Kevin's continues to be involved as a board member. And Wildbird Trust is also in a process of ensuring that we are working in right relationship with Tsleil-Waututh Nation, the First Nations who have stewarded these lands since time out of mind, where Maplewood Flats is situated on the unceded territories, and we're working to do what we can to correct some of our errors and building a better relationship. So thank you everyone for joining.
Oh, thank you so much, Leanne. I appreciate that. So yeah, we are live on Facebook and recording. If any of you have questions, definitely feel free to put them in the chat while Kevin is presenting. And if not, at the end, we'll have time for question and answers. So definitely keep that, ready. And yeah, we'll do that. And Kevin, I'll just give you, maybe like a 5-minute heads up when we're kind of close to time. Okay, is
Excellent.
that okay?
Yes, that's really good.
Perfect. Okay. Yes, so without further ado, thank you so much, Kevin. Take the floor.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Had a real, Leanne had to give me a wake-up call this morning. I slept in. So, yes, thank you, Leanne. I really appreciated that. That was great. Otherwise, I'd still be asleep. Anyway, we are now at part 4 of our bird ID in Southwestern BC.
I got there. Just look out here any sound.
Hi there.
Hi, so
we're just gonna... John.
Hi, John. Yeah, thank you for muting yourself. And if you want to turn your video off, just feel free to do that. If not, you can keep it on.
So anyway,
so
we're
continue.
we're having a quick look at the birds in Southwestern BC. This is number 4. Last time we did owls, I believe, and we finished off with the snowy owls, which come down from the high Arctic very irregularly. Maybe once every 15 years, we get a real invasion of them in the winter. And, this is a painting of a snowy owl having caught itself a bufflehead, and a crow is trying to have part of that feast. The snowy owls, of course, depart back up into the high Arctic at this time of year, slightly earlier actually. but we don't get them every year. As I say, that's very hard to put it down to once every 15 years, once every 10 years. It's dependent on lemmings and then how many lemmings there are. So bufflehead ducks, one of our commonest winter ducks, winters all around the southwestern part of British Columbia, on the ocean, in the inlets, around, it especially likes estuaries. Estuaries, of course, are very productive because of the mixing of the salt and fresh water, all sorts of intertidal mud flats. So these little ducks, which are small, they're about the size of our teal. They're about, I would say, almost half the size of a mallard duck. And as with all ducks, the males are more brightly colored than the females. So what we're looking at, of course, is the couple of males on the left and then the female at the front. And on the right, the male bufflehead in flight. They eat small crustaceans, shellfish, crabs, that sort of thing. And they are very definitely one of our commonest ducks in the wintertime. Basically, they turn up around October and they stay until this time of year, slightly later into May, maybe early May, late April, I would say. Other two species that are also found with buffleheads quite often, the same sort of habitat around estuaries, in inlets. On the left, Barrow's goldeneye. And again, the males are more brightly colored and the females have the brown heads and a little yellow on the beak. That's the way to tell a female Barrow's goldeneye, is this yellowish marking on the beak. Male Barrows have this nice crescent on the head and nice white sides and very dark black backs. Now, the birds on the right are common goldeneyes. And as you can see, they have round white markings on the head, just below the eye, between the eye and the beak. And if you look at the Barrows, it's a crescent shape. The other thing with the common is that they have a lot more white on their sides. So these are the two goldeneye we have. In fact, the west coast of North America, British Columbia, Alaska, British Columbia, and down into the States, Washington, Oregon. This is the headquarters of the Barrow's goldeneye in the world, and we have a responsibility here of making sure that the populations of Barrow's goldeneye don't crash. So it's very important responsibility for Barrows. Common goldeneyes are found right around the North Pole. So if you go to Ireland or British Isles, Europe, in the winter you'll find common goldeneyes, but Barrow's goldeneye are really rare birds there. Yeah. So again, here we have on the left, the common goldeneye. On the right is the long-tailed duck. Long-tailed ducks are sea ducks, and they're found out in the middle of the inlets, maybe in the middle of English Bay. They like that sort of more offshore area. And again, they are winter visitors. They nest in the high Arctic tundra. And at this time of year, they'd be moving back north. They like to gather where there's lots of food, and they are into small fish, herring, that sort of thing. And yes, you can actually get large flocks of, mixed flocks of these goldeneye, bufflehead, and long-tailed ducks at this time of year. Long-tailed ducks, the males have the long tail, the females have no long tail. So here we go, Harlequin Ducks. Aptly named because the males are colored like harlequin. Harlequin ducks nest in the Rocky Mountains, in the creeks and the canyons, the really torrential, where the creeks are roaring down, great torrents of water, and they nest in those canyons. And in the winter, they come to the coast of British Columbia and Washington, Alaska, and they like pounding surf. So they are definitely a bird of the outer coasts. There are some around the inlets in the lower mainland. We usually get a few at Maplewood. We might get 1 or 2 pairs sometimes. They tend to hang around where there are lots of shellfish. They like to eat shellfish. And again, you can see the males are brightly colored. The females are dully colored. Western North America has the largest population of Harlequin ducks in the world. There are some on the Labrador coast and across Greenland and Iceland, but there are very few there. And yes, this is the headquarters again in the world, right here. This is Robert Bateman painting of a Harlequin duck, male. Fine looking duck, beautiful duck to see. So, these are scoters on the left. If you look on the left-hand side of the screen, we have what are called the scoters. And they are black ducks. And the bottom one is the white-winged scoter, hence a bit of white on the wing. The male and female both have this white on the wing. Then left center is the black scoter, and hence there's no white, no markings. And some books refer to this as a common scoter. It isn't. It's the rarest of the 3 on this coast. And then top is the surf scoter with all the white on the head, the black and white head. And these are the males. The females, unfortunately, again, are duller colored. The brightly colored bird in this painting by Archibald Thorburn is a Steller's eider duck. It's a very rare bird, and you can see one of these on the BC coast, you're going to have people flying in from Mexico and New York and God knows where to see it if we didn't have the virus. This is a very rare species. They winter, in fact, up northwest of Alaska in the Bering Seas. They don't come south very often. It's really a lost bird. This is the male Steller's eider. Over on the right-hand side, we leave the sea ducks, oceanic ducks. Surf scoters are definitely sea ducks in the wintertime. All these ducks nest in the tundra or in the boreal forest. So in the summer, they change their habitat totally and their diets. They go to eating a lot of insects in the summer. On the right are freshwater type ducks more, although they're also found around saltwater, estuaries, etc. And these are surface feeders. On the bottom is a pair of nice northern pintail, the male, nice chocolate brown head, and a nice long tail. It's the only other long-tailed duck apart from the long-tailed duck, the pintail. Very different looking bird. Beautiful birds to see. Then to the left of the pintail is the blue-winged teal. Now these are summer visitors, and they will be turning up in late April, May. And if you're lucky enough to see them, they are very beautiful. The males, nice bluey gray head. The female, again, dull colored. Now above the blue-winged teal is the green-winged teal. Is the European teal. We get a few of these coming in from Eurasia in the wintertime. And if over on the right, above the pintail's head, is the green-winged teal, male. You can see the green-winged teal has a white marking on its chest, which the European teal on the left does not have. So that's the way you tell the Eurasian from the American greenwing. And yeah, you got to get a good view. The very top two birds are shovelers because of the shape of their beaks. They filter feed for small creatures in the muddy waters of marshes. And shovelers are, again, pretty distinctive ducks. The males, again, are the brightly colored birds. The females are dull. Why the females are dull is that they have to be camouflaged because they're going to be sitting on the nest and they don't want to be seen. So they are very importantly camouflaged. They blend in so that predators can't see them. So here I look at the beaks of the shovelers, and you can see the little serration, little combs in the beak there of both the male and the female. Female on the left, male top right. And one of the things about ducks is, come August, July, August, the males lose their bright colored plumage and go into eclipse plumage. Basically, they're growing new feathers, and they look like the females. So the July, August into September, it can be very hard to tell some of the duck species from each other. You have to go on shape, size, and wing patterns. Now we have here the northern pintails that we were looking at earlier. And of course, the commonest of all the ducks, mallard, in the bottom left. Mallard are very successful ducks. And in fact, this is the duck that most of our farmyard ducks, our domesticated ducks, are descended from. And if you go to, say, a children's farm or collection of waterfowl, mallard are very easily domesticated. So mallards, common around the world. Actually, if you look at the male mallard, very handsome looking birds. And here, at bottom left, we have American Widgeon. These birds turn up in late September, and they winter along the coast. Again, they like estuaries. They like areas where there are grassy fields. They like to graze on grass. Golf course owners aren't exactly happy. Well, the trouble is when they're grazing on the grass, they leave their manure behind. So golf course people aren't crazy about American Widgeon, but yeah, they have to put up with them. And on top right are three species, again, worth looking at. The little buffleheads. The little hooded, in the center are hooded mergansers, a pair of them. The male with the crested black and white head, the orange sides, and then the female just behind him. And then on the right are green-winged teal. So you can see that these three birds are some of our smallest ducks. Again, these are mergansers. On the right are common mergansers, the males with the dark green head and slight crest, female behind with the brown crested head. Over on the left, in the water, are a pair of red-breasted mergansers. The male has the spiky head, green feathers on the top of the head, and the brown, russet brown front. Female, again, is a more camouflaged. And right in the bottom left are two female and one male smew ducks. These are Eurasian species, and they have turned up on the Pacific coast from Alaska down to California, but they're pretty rare. And the trouble with all these duck species, the rare ones, many of them are kept in waterfowl collections throughout North America, and there's always the question, is the bird actually a genuine wild bird from Siberia, or is it an escapee from a waterfowl collection? Anyway, beautiful birds to see. These are mergansers. They eat fish, small fish generally, and we can see in the winter the common merganser and red-breasted mergansers at Maplewood, not in large flocks generally, in pairs or maybe small groups of 5 or 6. We're back to the sea ducks. This is just a quick look at some of the sea ducks we've already looked at. The On the left, lower left, is the white-winged scoter. In the center are black or common scoters. And on the right are birds called eider ducks. These are commoner eider, and they actually are very rare on our coast. They are wintering up in Alaska. They don't come south, but occasionally an eider duck will get mixed in with a flock of scoters and will end up on the coast. And again, you know, if it's in English Bay, you'll find people, bird watchers, checking out the flocks of scoters, surf scoters, trying to see if they can find the eider duck that's come to visit us for the winter. On the left, scoters. These are all scoters. On the left, you can see the male scoters, two of them, and a female in the center. And on the right, again, male scoters and the females on the left. This is our commonest scoter, and it can form huge flocks, up to 1,000 birds. They are big flocks in English Bay. Generally, if you want to have a good look at them, you need a spotting scope, unless you're lucky and the flocks have come in close. Worth scanning the flocks if you have a scope, because you never know. You certainly might pick out some white-winged scoters, maybe a black scoter, and of course, there's always that possibility you get an eider duck or something else, long-tailed ducks. Now, on the right are hooded mergansers, which we had a look at earlier, and you can see they're very distinctive. They like nice, quiet backwaters. In an estuary, they like somewhere ponds, back creeks, and you can, when the sun's on the males, they are really quite stunning. On the left are redhead ducks. Redheads are quite rare on the coast, I'm afraid, and but they do turn up. We had some last fall at Maplewood. A pair showed up. The male is on the left, the female on the right, and they're diving ducks, medium-sized. They're smaller than a mallard, but not as small as the teal or bufflehead. Beautiful-looking little ducks. As I say, quite rare on the coast, and yet if you go into the interior of BC, they're much more common. So the redhead on the bottom left, and on the top right are the canvasback, looking very similar, except canvasback are bigger, size of a mallard, and note the beak is quite different. Canvasbacks are a bit commoner on the coast down here. Both of these birds, they like fresh water. I mean, they will show up on salt water, but they tend to want to be on fresh water. Good place for both species used to be the Iona ponds, but unfortunately, I think in recent years they haven't been showing up there quite so regularly in the winter. We're having a look here at some of the head and beak shapes of the ducks that we've been talking about. And what we have are, on the right, we have the scoters, the surf scoters. You see a very different shaped beak there for eating shellfish and crabs. Then to the left of the black-headed scoters are the canvasback. You see the beak shape for eating the vegetation and small freshwater creatures that they feed on. Then we come to the redhead, and on the left is a Eurasian species called pochard. Pochard are very similar to redheads, and they occasionally are seen. Quite often they will be an escape from a waterfowl collection. Moving on to scaup species. We have two species of scaup on the Pacific coast here. On the left, we have the lesser scaup. Well, let me get that right. Whoa, what a mistake to make. On the left, we have a greater scaup on the... I'm looking at these. See, confusing birds. Scaup species are, yeah, on the right we have the greater scaup, right? Green head, greater scaup, bigger bird, bit of a tuft, and then on the left is the lesser scaup. So these are winter visitors in small numbers. Although if you go out to Boundary Bay and Tawasin area, you will get large, huge flocks of the greater scaup at this time of year. Lesser scaup like freshwater, and you can see those quite regularly at the Rifle Bird Sanctuary and the ponds there. On the right-hand side, the greater scaup like saltwater, and that's where you're best likely to see greater scaup. Greater scaup really do prefer saltwater. Lessers prefer the freshwater. And a good place to see both actually, and even compare them, is the Rifle Bird Sanctuary. Now, diving ducks are, there's about 5 species more in the lower in southwestern BC. This one is the ring-necked duck. Again, it's about the same size as the scaup, but unfortunately, it is reasonably common if you're looking at freshwater areas. It's getting commoner. We don't get flocks of these at Maplewood. We get maybe a pair or 2 pairs on the ponds, on the freshwater ponds. They like freshwater. They don't like salt so much, generally on freshwater. And the ring-necked duck is the male is on the right. The reason they call them ring-necks is that if you're a hunter and you shoot one and you extend the neck, you will find a brown ring around the neck. It's generally not visible otherwise. So they dive, and of course you can see the very distinctively marked beak and a bit of a crest. So these are really nice ducks to see. Again, we do get them sometimes at Maplewood in the barge channel or on the freshwater ponds there at Maplewood. Generally, it's only maybe a pair, 2 pairs. In flight, the bird on the right, the pair of birds on the right, are greater scaup. And again, you can see the greenish head on the male greater scaup, but in flight, greater scaup have a very long white wing bar. You see that white bar on the wing? And the lesser scaup, upper left, the white is only half the length of on the wing, that white wing bar. And again, the iridescence on the head of the male lesser is purple. Iridescence on the greater is green greater iridescence. The lower left, a pair of ring-necked ducks in flight. And as I've been saying, you know, in some of my earlier chats, getting to know the shape of birds is always very useful. The silhouettes, not just always the color. And of course, all of these ducks come July, August, go into molt, eclipse plumage, and they look like the females. So in flight again, top left are some rather nice blue-winged teal. Then in the top center is a bufflehead in flight. And over on the right, top right, is an American widgeon in flight. And again, the thing to look for are the wing patterns and the wing color. Then lower right is a common goldeneye. A lot of white on the wing there. And it's worth noting that the widgeon also have a lot of white. In the center, lower center, is a shoveler, a northern shoveler in flight. That beak really stands out. And then lower left are a pair of Barrow's goldeneye. And if you're looking at the Barrow's goldeneye in flight, note how much less white on the wings compared to the common goldeneye on the right. Now, ducks, unfortunately, lower right here we have a pair of ruddy ducks. So little diving ducks that turn up on the ponds and even on salt water around estuaries. On migration in the fall, in winter, and in spring. Ruddy ducks are quite cute and worth looking for. They're called stiff tails because the tail sticks up in the air. And or bluebills, nice males have beautiful blue bill. The bird on the left is a hybrid. Ducks, unfortunately, do hybridize, and this gentleman is a hybrid Mallard Pintail. So occasionally you will come across strange looking ducks, and they can most likely be hybrids. It's just something to bear in mind. The other bird that turns up occasionally, very rarely, is the Mandarin Duck. This is a beautiful duck, and it's really its native home is China. It was a citizen of the huge oak chestnut forests of the floodplains of China, and this is an acorn-eating duck. Mandarin ducks were evolved in the forests of China, and their major food crop was, in fact, acorns and chestnuts, beech mast, any nuts off trees and shrubs. There was one, I believe, at Burnaby Lake last fall. Now, its relative in this part of the world is the wood duck or Carolina duck. Wood ducks are also very beautiful, and they evolved to cover similar habitat to the mandarin, only mainly in eastern North America, in the hardwood forests of the east. We have a population on the west coast, principally probably because of all the oak trees in California, which has a lot of oak species and again a lot of acorns. Wood ducks really enjoy eating acorns or chestnuts. That's edible chestnuts, not horse chestnuts. Fruit of arbutus, other fruit and nuts of other trees like beech mast. Now along the west coast we have wood ducks, and in some places, especially Maplewood, we have resident wood ducks. They commute between Maplewood Children's Farm and Maplewood Conservation Area. And at this time of year, you'll see them mating down at Maplewood. They like to nest in old woodpecker holes in trees. So we put up rather large nest boxes for them. And they're resident all year. Here we have the Mandarin duck in the front and the wood duck behind it. They are the only two species that in their group of ducks that eat and live in deciduous forest. It's very specialized situation, and again they're really into acorns, beech mast. Now other species of ducks that can turn up and throw you for a loop if you're bird watching and trying to keep track. The big-cow teal on the left is about the size of green-winged teal, but it's from Eurasia, a very rare bird. They show up in Alaska sometimes, and they have been found down the coast rarely. On the right are species of shell duck, and these are not native to North America, but they are kept in ornamental wildfowl collections. And as you can see, there are 6 species, some of which have been introduced around the world in different places. For example, if you pay a visit to London, United Kingdom, Egyptian geese are now established there, top left, here, in this birds on the right. And of course, native to Europe at the very bottom are the shell ducks with a like green head. They're like estuaries. So these are birds that people keep in wildfowl collections. And one bird that's extinct and is only known from a few skins is the Labrador duck. In the 1800s, they showed up in markets, wildfowl markets in New York, Boston, Montreal, so forth. They were hunted and shot on the coast of Labrador. And in fact, they only got a few, and they went looking for them and never could find them, so they're extinct. The best they can come up with is they have a rather unusual shaped beak, and they think they were fairly specialized feeders on some types of shellfish, but they really don't know much about them. Never having seen them in the wild, they're only known from the skins that were bought in market hunting stalls in New York and Boston and so forth. And it was known they came from the coast of Labrador. That's where they're killed. So this bird is extinct, never to be seen again. Bird that looks rather like a duck is an American coot. This is in fact belongs to the family called the rails. And American coots, like fresh water, they will exist on waters around estuaries in the wintertime. You can see a nice white beak, quite distinctive. They are about just slightly smaller than a mallard and quite aggressive. So that's the duckies. Now we're going to look at the gulls. Gulls are quite interesting. On the right are a number of gulls that in fact are all related. They are subspecies of a superspecies, which includes our own glaucous-winged gull. On the left is a map showing the distribution of these gulls. So number one up there is indeed the glaucous-winged gull. And you can see that our big gull on the coast here is found right through the North Pacific and down the coast of the Pacific. So it's just south of us. But it is related to all of these other gulls and hybridizes with them, which is just so much fun for identification purposes. The superspecies, this is the superspecies. What we have here is one of these delightful large gulls. This one has black primaries, and you can see that our glaucous-winged gull doesn't. This is a herring gull, and it is found, it nests in the pink area in North America, and it winters in the blue. So we get some of these herring gulls on the coast in the winter. Not a lot, but a few. Our native gull is the glaucous wing, and you can see its wingtips are not black. And this is the one, this is our gull on the coast all the time. Now this, unfortunately, is a hybrid glaucous wing western gull. That is what we have a lot of on the coast, and it looks very like a herring gull. So it's very hard to tell the difference between glaucous-winged western hybrids and herring gulls. This is the western gull. So if you go down the coast of Oregon, California, this is the gull you will see. It's got a slaty gray back. And when it comes into Washington State, it interbreeds with the glaucous-winged gull, producing many hybrids. So that can be a bit of a problem from the identification point of view, because the hybrids can, of course, have quite pearly gray backs and black wingtips, or they can have slaty gray backs and black wingtips. It's not easy. The other thing on the right are immature gulls. These are immature Western gulls. But the immatures, again, are hard to identify from each other. And really, there are books published specifically on identifying the gulls from each other and the immatures. It takes 3 years for these larger gulls to become adults, and they go through various molts. And in those 3 years, yes, you can identify them if you.
Sorry, Kevin, I'm just going to let you know 5 minutes or a little bit less until
Okay.
we're going to wrap up for questions, okay?
Great, that's
Thank you.
marvelous. So these gulls, you're really, if you want to identify the immatures, you're going to have to get a special book on those. Now we're looking at Thayer's gulls. Thayer's are again part of this super species. They nest in the very high Arctic, and again, some of them come to the coast, and again, they have black wingtips. So there's a Thayer's, a little bit more dainty. The beak is not quite as huge and massive. All gulls like garbage dumps, and we have increased the number of gull species phenomenally in the last 100 years with our garbage disposal methods, basically dumping it. And of course, the gulls feast on the garbage, and they survive, and we have a population explosion. We're looking now at a species here called a ringbill gull, and we get these passing through. Some of them winter around English Bay. Certainly, we get some at Maplewood. They breed on the prairies, eating insects on the prairies. This is the mew gull, another species. This one stays with us all winter and disappears in the summer. The adult are on the left, the immatures on the right. Beautiful little gull. They're not big. They're about almost half the size of a glaucous wing gull, and they're very nice, beautiful to watch. Breeding in the as you can see in the northern parts of BC. This is the ringbill gull again. Look at that ring on the gull's beak. Very strong prairie nester. And the map we just saw is where they nest, in the pink area, in the prairies. They winter in the blue areas. So, Bonaparte Skull. This is our smallest gull, smallest common gull, seen in spring and fall, and again in some in the wintertime. They generally like more open ocean water. If you see these, they're very dainty, they're small, and well worth watching for. Should be turning up this time of year. Bonaparte skulls, named after a relative of Bonaparte. They'll nest in trees, as you can see in the top left. Nice, in the breeding plumage, they have a nice dark blackish brown head. In the winter, non-breeding, they don't have that. A rare bird that passes through here is the Sabine's gull. Again, a small gull, very definite wing patterns, worth watching for. Sabine's gull. There were some spotted in Burrard Inlet off Maplewood last fall, just passing through like this, a flock. You can see the very distinctive wing pattern there of a Sabine's gulls. So now we're hitting the shorebirds, so that's it for this presentation. We will pick it up again at this slide next time. Thank you. Hello, Maddie. Am I still?
Hey, Kevin.
Hey,
All's
that's good.
Yeah, you're good.
Yep.
Any
So if
questions
anybody-
from people?
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions?
I was just going to say that
Sorry, I was in the washroom.
that's okay.
I ran.
Yeah. just asking for questions. I'll just say that the gulls are the large gulls are a very difficult group. The glaucous winged gulls, the western gulls, and the hybrid between western and glaucous. Really, we have a lot of hybrids. And then, of course, we do get wintering herring gulls, Thayer's gulls, and that throws another problem into identification. And then you get into the whole juvenile, immature plumage. As I was saying, it's a 3 year, 3 years before these larger gulls get their adult plumage. So again, they do all look different. Each year is a different pattern, but you need to have the books. And most books do give you some idea of how to identify those immature gulls. The smaller gulls are a lot simpler to identify. And this Sabine's gulls that we're looking at here, you can see the wing pattern is very distinctive.
Nice. I hear a bit of a reverb. I think it's Leanne. I'm just gonna mute her.
Yeah.
There we go. Nice, Kevin. Thank you so much for that
Not at all.
presentation. That was awesome.
So I guess next time we're doing shorebirds, waders.
Yes. Yeah, we'll be doing shorebirds next time. So
Yeah. Let's try. Nicole, let's try and remember we're doing shorebirds and we're starting at this slide.
exactly. I'll remember. I'll remember.
I'll try and remember too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much, everyone. I'm just gonna give 1 second to see if
Sure.
anyone has any questions.
Yeah.
So, if you do, type it in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself, okay? And to unmute yourself, it's the lower left hand. We have time for about 1 to 2 questions. I know Kevin's presentations are so comprehensive. Sometimes I'm like, I learn so much, and it's so good. So I appreciate that. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone has any questions.
If anybody, again, for a book, I would recommend Dick Canning's little book, Southwestern BC Birds. Pretty well pick it up at any bookstore. It covers the birds of this area. And of course, there's just unbelievable number of field guides now. Sibley, Peterson, and on, Crosby, all sorts of field guides.
Awesome. Aw. Thank you so much, Kevin, for all
Hey,
your knowledge.
okay.
I love when you come and share. It's just always so enjoyable. So huge thank you from me, and I'm sure everyone
Okay,
at home.
Nicole.
All right, everyone, have a great day, and hopefully see you in about a month's time for shorebirds.
Yes, sure.
Always look at our Eventbrite, because we have events every Thursday and Saturday.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a good day. Stay safe, everybody.
Bye.
Stay safe.